I know that this is very cliche and probably goes without saying, but I see this as such a massive problem. I can't not say this. And if you're an M&A advisor out there, you're going to laugh at this because it boggles my mind how very sophisticated, very kind, gentle individuals who have built great businesses could actually sit down with buyers and be total dicks and be condescending pricks. Like, if you are a seller, every time you sit down with a buyer in a controlled environment, in a management meeting, you should only have eyes for that buyer. You should be smiling, pouring coffee. You should fight all desire to run your mouth, because you get far more information from listening than you do from talking. So be sweet, be kind, take notes, have a notepad, take notes as buyers talk, listen. Work with your advisor and make sure you've got a full list of questions. Do your research on that private equity fund, do your research on the acquirer, do your research on the individuals. Have sophisticated, well thought out questions in order to ascertain information. Because again, this information, this is your opportunity to get a ton of information that you will use and we will use as we move through the process and try to ratchet up the price. So again, be sweet, be kind, be very humble. Listen, be emotionally detached. Don't take anything too serious. Have fun. Have fun. Smile and have fun. This is what you need to do. I mean, I say this to every single client, and just like I say it, and sometimes they go in there and do the exact opposite. So I guess now I am officially putting it on public record. This is what I say, do it. So you go in, you sit down, and a management meeting is basically a situation where the acquirer will walk in with the CIM. So they've studied the CIM and they've got a variety of questions, and they may have sent over some questions in advance that we'd be prepared for. But the acquirer sits down and says, hey, Rob, love your business, super excited about it. I've got questions about your president. I've got questions about your HR process. I got questions about your operations. I've got some random questions on the financial statements. And it looks like you guys had some non-cash charges last year. What happened there? Oh, we did some rebranding. So you tend to have a relatively informal, and sometimes these are more formal in structure, but it's a relatively informal meeting where you're answering a lot of questions. You might do a brief presentation on the history and the overview of the company and talk about some of the competitive advantages you have. But it should be a relaxed and friendly and humorous situation. And then you'll have dinner. Again, your goal is, number one, get information. Number two, conceal information. If you're getting a divorce, the acquirer doesn't need to hear about it. If your wife is badgering you to buy the $5 million yacht for the vacation you've got planned next March and you need to get the company sold, don't talk about it. If you're facing a bankruptcy situation or anything that potentially increases the necessity or desire for you to do a deal, concealing that is not wrong, right? Just don't talk about it. But figure out what the other side's up to. Why does the operator from the acquirer want to do this deal? How much value is he going to be able to create? So, hey, John, I love the fact that you guys are interested in my company. It's taken me my whole life to build this. I really want to find the right home for it. I care a tremendous amount about my people. You seem like the right guy to be able to pull this off. If we combine these two businesses, what are you going to do with it? Like, how are you going to be able to create value for XYZ Corp? Now, John's an operator. He's not a negotiator. Like, you might have the corp dev guys there, you might have an M&A guy, but they often bring an operator who actually can understand your business. And the operator might say, hey, this is your pest control business. It's a $50 million business. Here's what I'm going to do. If I combine it in my area, I can get increased route density. I can shave off, 300 basis points of cost off the gross margin line. We've got a lot of redundancies here. I can remove $1 million in cost here. I can do all these sorts of things. Hey, you guys have a great capability. I can take this mosquito capability and roll it all across $1 billion in revenue and increase my set. These guys will go on and on and on and on. And that's what we need to know. Because at the end of the day, when we get to the end of the process, we are going to reverse engineer. We're going to say, okay, how much value can acquire A create by doing this deal? Now, in theory, all synergies created in a deal, whether revenue enhancements or cost synergies should belong to the buyer because they're writing a check. That's not the way the world works. When I've got a bunch of competitors vying to buy a company, we're going to extract as much of that value creation for ourselves on the sell side. And if we really understand what that looks like, because we've asked the right questions, we didn't talk too much, we were friendly, and we got everyone else talking to us, like, what are their incentives? Like, hey, John, you're the operator. Like, if you do this deal, what happens? Like, how does this impact you? Well, my budget's going to be bigger, and if I get this thing, might increase my bonus by 20%. That's great. M&A guy. I get bonused on how much capital I commit. So now we know that, hey, I've got some direct buy-in from these guys. Like, I'm negotiating with a corporation, but am I really? No, I'm negotiating with guys who have jobs, who have families, who want money. And now they've just revealed to me that they've got financial incentives. Like, if I was blabbering the whole time and talking, I wouldn't have figured that out. So figure that out, because we're going to use that. Now, before we move on from this meeting, which effectively is a first date, I want to break this down a little bit. I want to talk about roles here. Now, as an investment banker, it's my job to prepare you with questions, help you figure out the questions, help you understand who you're talking to, help you understand what it is they're going to want to understand from you, the business owner. And you should really think about this as almost a first date with a woman. You are a handsome, charming man, quite successful. You meet a girl. You have a conversation, you exchange a number. Now, this woman doesn't know you, right? And so she's had a quick conversation with you. She likes the way you look. You seem to be reasonably successful. You're charming. So you exchange numbers, you set up a date with her, and you go on with your life. Now, while you're going on your day-to-day business, in the same way the acquirers have read the sim and they're going on their day-to-day business, she's beginning to think about who you are as a man. And again, she doesn't know much about you, so she's creating these images in her mind of what you could be, right? Is this her final opportunity to quit dating, right? Does she finally find the guy, and are you the guy? And she's creating these ideas in her head of who you are. So how do guys screw this up? They go on the date, they talk about themselves the whole time, they run interview questions with a woman, they basically ruin the illusion. So the image that she had in her mind of who you are, like, you've actually told her who you are, and that's not exactly what she was thinking. So don't screw this up, right? It's the same way with the meetings with the acquirers. Like, you're going to continue to be the charming, handsome man. You've done well for yourself, got the nice company. You're going to be friendly. You're going to be playful. You're going to listen to questions. You're going to answer them. You're going to ask engaging, thoughtful, open-ended questions. But at the end of the day, there's nothing that you're going to be able to do at this meeting to cause somebody to say, hey, I definitely want to pay more for this business because this guy is so awesome. But you have this distinct opportunity of turning them off and saying, like, hey, we'll buy this, but we're not paying a crazy price, or we're just not interested. So going into these meetings, you're not looking to dazzle, you're looking to do damage mitigation at all costs. That's how you have to look at this. And from my perspective as a banker, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to mold perception on the part of the acquirer. I'm not only trying to ferret out information, I'm taking notes, but I'm also trying to make sure that the acquirer understands that you've got a lot of options. And you're going to naturally come off like you have a lot of options because you just met with 10 different women in a 3-day period. You're super excited, right? You're the guy at the bar and all the chicks are coming up to you. That's how I want you to feel. And that's how I want you to naturally come off. And so doing these meetings and getting yourself into this mindset, I think, is very, very important. Because again, as I said earlier in the discussion, so much of this is perception versus reality. And so much of this negotiation game here is psychology. So we've got you high on your own supply, you're all hopped up, you're charming and you're funny and you're humorous and you're asking great questions and you have a good meeting and you're very friendly to the acquirers. And then we move on to the next day.